Now, amid the India-Canada diplomatic row that is taking place, S Jaishankar talks tough. He slammed Canada's double standard on free speech. He said there are many countries where there is freedom of speech and expression, including India, but that cannot be a license to advocate violence and to intimidate or even propagate separatism and extremism. It is a conversation that has been going on for a long time. Unfortunately, in this particular case, in Canada, events took a certain turn. This is the External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar taking a pot shot at Canada. My colleague Gaurav is joining me on the story. Gaurav, we have seen how there has been a diplomatic row between Canada and India, but the External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar not mincing his words and taking a pot shot at Canada.
You know, very deftly, he has said that there is room for diplomacy and that India and Canada remain engaged in diplomacy. But then he's also made it very clear it cannot just be a one-way street. The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S Jaishankar, has said that Canada has to keep India's sensitivities in mind as India keeps Canada's sensitivities in mind. And he said a very simple thing. He said he has a smell test for every country in the world, which is if those countries think what is right for them, would they like the same to happen to them in this country? And he says mostly he does not get an answer. So, for example, when Indian diplomats are threatened in Canada and their posters are put up, he's asked Canada very simply, would they be comfortable if posters of Canadian diplomats were put up in India and a bounty was kept on their heads? And he doesn't get an answer to that. Sitting in Canada or sitting in United States of America, you have, evil people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu threatening Indian diplomats, or at the same time, very recently he's threatened Air India. You'd recall Air India, when Kanishk was blown up, weeks before that, people in Canada were told not to fly Air India aircraft because something would happen. India had raised it with Justin Trudeau's father, who was then Prime Minister of Canada, told them that please give additional security. That additional security was not provided, and Kanishk was blown up, killing over 320 people. He's issued the same threat yesterday, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, saying stop flying Air India from the 19th of November. Now it remains to be seen whether Justin Trudeau or the United States, wherever Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is, either Canada or United States, will these countries take action against him, or is there an apprehension we will see a repeat of the Kanishk bombing? This is where these Western democracies have been put on notice by India, saying practice what you preach.
Right, Gaurav, you also spoke about the fact that we are not mincing words, and this is the new India that, the entire world is sitting up and taking notice of. Now, if there is something that we don't like, we call a spade, and also, as you rightly pointed out, there has to be equality. If you don't like something happening in, to your people, then obviously India will also not like that happening.
You're absolutely right. Again, Canada had 40 additional diplomats in India. Repeatedly, India raised this with Canada, that they were interfering in India's internal affairs, and in diplomatic conversations had also given details of how that interference was taking place. And yet the Justin Trudeau government was not, responsive to India's concerns. So finally, India read out the Riot Act and forced them to repatriate their additional diplomats. Said in case they are not withdrawn from a certain date, then their diplomatic immunity would be removed. And they were forced to recall those diplomats, and they realized their measures had been counterproductive. So unfortunately, countries like Canada, and you'd recall we've also had an unfortunate incident in the past with the United States of America with a top Indian diplomat, Devyani Khobragade. When India imposed that parity with those countries, they realized that India is no longer a pushover, and the relationship with the United States, of course, has been on an even keel. It remains to be seen whether it comes on an even keel as long as Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister of Canada. And India has repeatedly said there are absolutely no problems between people of India and Canada. It is just the Justin Trudeau government.
Thank you, Gaurav, my colleague, putting everything in perspective and also pointing out the fact that India is no longer a pushover. Our External Affairs Minister now calling a spade and taking a pot shot at Canada.